Okay guys, so before I start the actual review, I wanted to show you really quick how I have the audio recording set up. Um, Basically, this is an H4n here, which is a handheld audio recorder. Um, the piano doesn't have a digital output, it only has an analog stereo output in the back to run to a speaker system or an amplifier. So I bought an adapter cable, and that adapter cable goes from a plug like this, which is a 3.5mm stereo headphone jack, and it goes to two XLRs, which are these right here, and that's basically your left and right channel for the piano, or your stereo channels for the piano. So any voice I play on the piano, violin, piano, whatever, comes in through these cables and is recorded in stereo. And then the mics up here are going to be picking up my voice as I'm doing the review, but it's going to go over on a tripod, so I don't pick up all the vibration and noise from the piano as I'm playing it. This is just a power plug here, powers this so it doesn't run out of battery power. This is my headphone jack. I'm monitoring live exactly what I'm recording and playing. And this right here, this is a USB output. This is outputting digital USB audio. So the H4n not only acts as a recording device, but it acts as a digital audio converter or an audio interface. And an audio interface, in this case, converts my analog audio coming in from the piano to a digital format and then outputs a live stream through this USB cable, and that in turn is plugged in to my tablet here, which is a Nexus 7 second generation. And then if I start up my editing software on here, my multi-track editing software, I can just start recording track upon track upon track in digital format. Very, very, very low noise. The recording quality is amazing from the H4n. I do have to say that the audio conversion from the H4n to a digital format is absolutely stellar. There's virtually zero background noise. Very, very, very good output. So basically that's, just wanted to show you how I have it set up. In another video I'm going to go over how to actually do the recording and how to use the program I use to record multiple tracks. It's pretty simple, but I'm going to go also in the review go over the adapter, what kind of tablets you have to support it, because not all tablets support an OTG adapter, which is what you need for this. So it takes a certain type of tablet. Apple is more consistent, more reliable than Android, but I'll do that in a later video, so let's get on to the review now. Okay everyone, hello, this is my review of the Roland RP500 and also the RP501R, which is very similar. I'll get into that later. The first thing I'd like to go over is the cabinet. Very nice cabinet as far as appearance goes. This is the black finish. It has an artificial wood grain. It looks very realistic. Looks like real wood. The keyboard roller, the keyboard tray here, the cover, is very nice. It has a nice aluminum edge here to keep you from damaging the lip. This is very durable. Basically just pick up on the edge and it rolls back and stops flush here with the face of the piano. And then when you're closing it, same thing, you just gently pull forward on it. It rolls very easily down and then drops over the keys. So overall, cabinet's pretty nice. I really like the music holder back here, which obviously you need. But the other little thing I really liked was the little flip-up pegs here to hold your pages so your pages don't close on you. Believe it or not, even some of the Yamahas and stuff don't have these clips. And trying to clip a book open or get something to keep it open is pretty annoying when you're trying to play music and everything's closing on you and falling on your keyboard. So those are really nice. The other thing I did really like was down here on the lower side. You can't really see it, but there's a little plastic clip that holds the headphones. So every time you're done playing, you just basically take the headphones off, put them underneath here in the corner on the clip, and walk away. They're held. That's something I really like. It's a really nice convenience. You might think, oh, well, you know, it's just a plastic clip, but it's really nice to not have to set the headphones on top of the piano or try and find somewhere to put them. So that's a plus. I'm going to get right into the keys now. These keys on their keyboard are the PHA-4 keys, and they're standard. I'm not sure what the difference in the standard and the premium keys are. I couldn't find any difference. I'm thinking maybe it's just a texture probably on the ebony versus none. So on the standard PHA-4 keys, they have a simulated ivory touch here on the surface, so it feels like ivory. The black keys are smooth. They still feel extremely realistic though, despite the fact that there's no texture on them. I have played Yamahas in the Clavinova line and also Kawaiis in, I'd say, the 3,000 and up price range. And this keyboard to me feels the most realistic overall, as far as just the dynamics of the way the keys come back, the escapement when you push the key down and it drops at the last, 2 or 3 millimeters. Overall, this keyboard to me feels the most realistic. One thing I do like in the Yamaha keys versus the Rolands like this and the Casios and the Kawais is the Yamaha keys are a little more snug. There's less play in them, so when you put your finger on a key like this and wobble it, there's a little play on the Rolands, and the same on the Casios and the Kawais, whereas the Yamaha keys are really snug and tight, closer to what a real piano would be, maybe even a little too tight. But I do wish that Roland and Kawai and the others would make their keys a little snugger, but the way this keyboard feels is still very realistic, despite the fact that there's a little play in the keys. You don't really notice it, it's very minimal. And when you go on the upper end of the Roland line, you step away from the PHA 4 keys and you go to the PHA 5 or 50, which are hybrid keys. These are totally plastic. They feel amazing, but when you go to the top end of their line, which is probably around the $3,500 range and up, you get a hybrid key, which is plastic, but when you push it down, on the side of the key, there is wood, and that wood goes down the length of the key, 75% of the way at least, and it supposedly makes the key more rigid, so when you're playing them, they have a little bit more stiffness like a real key would have. And also it just looks more realistic when you press the key down, you see wood on the side versus plastic. But anyway, very nice keys. The feel is really good. I wanted to go over the escapement because I really like the escapement feel in the Roland. There was no one around my area that I could play a Roland, so I kind of wanted to do this review to help people that are looking at Rolands versus Yamahas and Kawais and other pianos, to kind of help make up your mind, help give you some more information. Because I couldn't find any dealers that would allow me to play Rolands. They all had stage Rolands, which are different from their HP line and their RP home piano line. A little bit different synthesizer and keys. So anyway, so the escapement on these keys, when you go to push one of these keys down, it drops down, and then at the very last section, the resistance on the key actually increases slightly, and then it drops and releases. And it's extremely realistic. And a lot of keyboards that I've played, even the Yamahas and some of the Casios and stuff like that, and these are all keyboards in the price range of this or higher by the tune of at least $500,000 range difference more. These keys, when you push them down, they either go down with the same amount of resistance and then just zero and drop, or they just go down and get easier as they get to the bottom, but there's no noticeable click or drop. And when you're playing, you'll notice that. If you've played a real piano for 6 months, a year, you'll notice right away when you start playing a digital keyboard versus the real thing, you'll notice something's different. You might not figure out what it is, but it's partially the way the escapement mechanisms in real pianos allows them to get a little bit stiffer and then drop to the keybed. So anyway, let's go over the tone now. Okay, so I'm going to play a note. There's multiple samples for the Rolands, multiple note samples, just like you would have on a Yamaha or the other piano. And I wanted to kind of play a key at different volumes so you can hear the difference. It's not just one sample being played back. So you can hear how the timbre changes as you play the key harder. The one thing I really do like about the Rolands is the fact that they have what's called a supernatural sound technology, which is basically a simulation of how the real string resonates and is produced. The note is produced from the string resonation. And what Roland does is they mix, as far as I can tell from the information online, they mix a simulation from the synthesizer with the samples they recorded for that instrument. So in this case, grand piano. So what you're hearing is actually a combination of a computer synthesizing the note as well as the sample of the real note being played. But the thing I really like about the Roland notes and the sound is that supernatural synthesizing takes into account the other notes that are being played on the piano. So if you were to play a C and a G in a real piano or an acoustic piano, you would get what's called overtones or an overtone, and that's because those notes are harmonizing. And when you play those two notes together, while one is playing, you play another one while it's sustained or whatever. Those notes, the vibrations from your C affect the G strings and the real acoustic piano, and that affects the overall tone because you get extra overtones added, and also you get some tones from the case of the piano. And a lot of digital pianos like Yamahas and Kawais, they have great samples, they have great blending of the samples when you're playing, but the acoustics of those overtones and those semitones are not there because you have speakers or headphones playing back the different notes, but there's no way for the different notes to affect each other, because in real life you have strings affecting other strings as they're being played, and on a digital piano there are no strings, so those overtones are not created the same way. So on the Rolands, they have 88 key sampling, which means that when you play a key and you play another key, the synthesizer is keeping tracks of what keys you have played or haven't played, and it knows if you play C and G, and then you play another C, it knows that these first two notes were played when you played this C, and it synthesizes the acoustics and the overtones for every one of those notes based on what's currently being played. So all these notes interact with each other like they would in a real piano, and I'm going to give you an example right now so you can kind of hear it better. It's easier to hear in the lower end of the piano versus the higher end. But down here I'm going to play in the lower end. First I'm going to play harmonizing notes so you can kind of hear the overtones created and how they sound versus dissonant notes or non-harmonizing notes, and the overtones and stuff that you get just like a real piano case would get. So I'm going to play down here first harmonizing. So there you can hear how it kind of sounds like the real thing. And now I'm going to play dissonant notes down here that don't harmonize on purpose so that you can hear some of the acoustics that are generated by that supernatural engine. So anyway, there you get to hear what it sounds like. This is the most realistic piano sound I've ever heard on any digital piano. If you guys are wondering what this tablet is up here, this is actually, when you see me touch this throughout the review, you can't see the screen right now because I have a filter on the camera that's kind of cutting off the screen so you can't see what's on here. Even though I wanted you to be able to see it, but the filter is removing it. But I'm just selecting my my voices up here for the piano instead of using the onboard controls here, because up here they're named, so it's easier to find exactly what you want. So when I go up here and touch this, I'm just selecting different instruments. Okay, so I'm going to move on now. I'm just going to play some music. These are not pieces of music, so if you're wondering what these are, they're not pieces of music. I'm just going to play ad-libs so you can hear what the piano sounds like, different volumes, different notes, different stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and play now. Okay, so now you got to hear what the piano actually sounds like. I'm going to go over some of the different voices and settings for the brightness and reverb and stuff like that. So right here on the front of the piano, you're going to have your plus and minus buttons, which allows you to kind of go through the menus. I'm going to be using the app here on the tablet, which you can't see, to select the different voices instead of this here. But right now, this is the default piano voice, or the grand piano 1. This is the ballad piano, or the soft piano. And this is the bright piano. And there's also settings within the piano here. I'm going to show you right here on the front of the keyboard. There's settings for the brightness and for the reverb. Right now I have the reverb set to 2, which to me sounds like a grand piano if you had the lid open. And then there's also brightness settings, which I have set to +5, I think, because it's a little bit more clear and sounds like a real piano sitting right in front of you. And you can also go, I believe the brightness, you can go negative all the way to -10, and you can go all the way to +10. I'm not sure why you would want to go negative, but anyway, I'm going to let you hear some of the different brightness settings. So we're just going to go back to the regular concert piano. So this is what I have it set to right now, which is +5. This is +10. Sorry, that's the reverb. This is a reverb at +10, which is basically a concert hall. And then I'll set it back right now to the 2, which is what I think sounds realistic for the case. So now we're going to go back and change the brightness all the way up to +10. So you can hear it's really pronounced and clear. And then if we go back, all the way back to 0, this is the default brightness. A little too soft for me, which is why I bumped it up, but anyway, this is the default 0. So it kind of just depends on what kind of piano you're used to. Some pianos are bright, some are soft. It just depends on the manufacturer. So anyway. So I'm back set to where I usually use it, which is +5. I'm going to go ahead and play some of the different voices. So you can hear the guitar and some other stuff. There are piano combinations in here. So this is piano and strings. There's piano and pad, which is the pad itself is actually a really nice voice. You can't hear it too well with the piano because it's not as bright, but anyway. And I'm going to go ahead and go into the other here and play. Here is the steel string guitar, which is one of the most realistic voices on here. If you know how to finger the fingering patterns of a real guitar, it sounds extremely realistic. So here's the steel guitar. also a nylon guitar. And remember, all the brightness settings can be adjusted on these voices as well as the piano. So if you adjust the brightness really high on the guitars, especially the steel, it sounds like you have your ear right next to the string. It sounds amazing. Or you can tune it down if you want to, sound like you're further back. So anyway. I'm going to go all the way. I'm going to let you hear that pad. It's actually in here. It's called a choir pad. And then I'm going to go play a few of the percussion instruments just so you can hear them really quick here. Trumpet. We got a trombone in here. A tuba. They even have a French horn, which sounds very realistic. Okay, so the one last thing I wanted to show you guys was the dual voice capability of this piano. And what the dual voice does is it allows you to play pretty much any voice with one of the 10 or 13 piano voices together. And it's kind of nice because you can layer two voices together if they weren't already layered in one of the settings. In other words, there's piano combinations, but let's say you want a trumpet in a piano. Well, there is no trumpet piano, so you can layer the trumpet on top of the piano so that every time you hit a key, you hear both voices instead of one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and select the trumpet because it's pretty easy to hear. Okay, so I'm going to select the trumpet and the other, and then I'm going to go to the piano tone and set the piano back to number 1. And all you have to do this is you hold down the piano button here on the keyboard and you hit the other button, and it's going to layer the two together. And you can't hear the piano real well because the trumpet is so powerful, so you got to be careful what voices you layer, but hopefully you can kind of hear the piano in the background. Let's put it on a flute or something so that we can hear the piano a little better. The violin sounds okay with the piano, but the problem is the style of playing piano is totally different than violin, so sometimes when you're playing multiple keys, it sounds great with the piano, but the violin layered on top sounds weird because you would never play a violin like that. So let me go find the flute here. Okay guys, so I finally found the flute. Here it is with the piano in a dual voice mode. Okay guys, so now that I've gone over most everything, I'm going to show you a little bit in the Piano Partner 2 app and show you kind of what it allows you to do, and then I'll also show you at the same time the differences between the RP500 and the 501R. So if we go into the main menu of the app here, it looks like this. I have it connected with a USB cable directly to the back of the piano. There's a USB MIDI output on the back of the piano, and I have that going straight up here. This is a USB OTG adapter, and then this is a Nexus 7 second generation tablet. Not all tablets. This is an Android tablet. Not all Android tablets support OTG, and especially the different modes, because there's different modes for the inputs. So it might support OTG, but then you find out it doesn't support MIDI. So anyway, we'll go in here and show you real quick. It basically has flashcards, which teaches you notes, if I remember right. Yeah, it basically it has you play notes and then play them back, so you can learn to play. I'm not sure how you go back here. Okay, there we go. So if you go into songs, there's a bunch of songs loaded onto these keyboards that you can play back through the internal memory, but it's hard to do on here. It's kind of tricky because they're not really named. You can go in here. This might be kind of loud, but I'm going to play this one. Okay, so you get an idea. You can go in here and play the onboard recorded songs through the synthesizer, or the piano voice that the Roland has. And a lot of it has like 100+ songs on the internal memory, but this has them all named and everything in the app, so it's easy to select them, listen to them, set the volume. You can even change the tempo. But the most useful thing I found for this app is you can go into here and you can go in the corner with this little gear icon, or the little, it's like a guitar/keyboard icon. You can tap that and select all your tones or your voices for the keyboard instead of going through numbers, because down here there's 307 voices, and it's hard to remember what number 125 is versus 121. So when you go in here to the app, it's much easier to just select your voice and it immediately changes the keyboard. So I can go in here and select piano and strings, and bam, I have piano and strings on the keyboard. So, and then it's especially useful in all the extra voices, because you get in here and who remembers what the ukulele is 104. So it makes it really easy to select your different voices by name. So that's pretty much what the app is for. It's for playing back the internal memory and selecting voices. And the other cool thing is it has onboard rhythms in here. So if we go in here to this one, these are the rhythms. Let's start an acoustic rhythm with 2 variations. We'll slow down the beats per minute a little bit. And it's basically just auto accompaniment. So if I go down here and hit a different key, so yeah, you basically have your your auto accompaniments built into the app, and that's where I was going to explain to you the difference. The difference between the RP500, which is this piano, and the 501R is on the 501R they have these rhythms already on the preloaded memory, and you can set and control them without the app or the tablet directly from the keyboard here. The RP500, which is the Costco version, does not have those beats or rhythms on board, but they are accessible or they're built into the app. So as soon as you connect a Android tablet or an iOS iPad and install the Piano Partner 2 app, the rhythms are right there and available to play back through the keyboard. So very similar models. That's the only difference. And if you're using the app, then it really doesn't matter anyway because they're on the app. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to go over the things I don't like now.